Welcome in and welcome all to another edition of the Legacy Rides. We got another special guest. Every one of our guests are always special, ain't that right, Andrew? So another
That's
special
right.
guest. This one, you can follow her on X at Sonja Agora. Fantastic follow, by the way. Fantastic videos too when she releases like everything that she does in her daily life with her and her family. So the real agoristic lifestyle. Let's just put it that way. So self-sustainability. So, and that's why we brought you on, and that's why we want to capture that perspective on agorism and practice. So, but before that, I got to do the plugs, though, Andrew. Let's get the
Why
plugs
not?
out. Why not? Why not? So, fanghornforesters.com for all your woodworking needs and necessities, bowls, cutting boards, coasters, any little knickknack like that. My cousin can do it. And on top of that, he can split your wood for you and do some mill work. Oh man, he'll go to you. So he'll go to you even for some real work if you need to. So fanghornforesters.com, Fanghorn like the leader of the Ents from Lord of the Rings. We are Ents, so fanghornforesters.com. Another thing, let's pledge this one out though, Andrew. You want to join community, you want to join something where you get more than just your normal everyday bullshit shenanigans on Twitter or Facebook or wherever you're on your socials. Drop it down in the show notes. Go to Telegram, a taco sauce. It'll be in the show notes. But go to a taco sauce. I believe it's t.me/a taco sauce for memes, from politics to economics to psychology, philosophy, and even recipes. Andrew's
Right.
doing that. Recipe Wednesdays is what we're calling it. So you'll get a list of different recipes that he finds on the interwebs. So and then with that, if you want more than just a podcast, just perspective pieces and a little bit of story that just delves into my own mind, you can pledge over on the Legacy Right official Substack. That's legacywrite.substack.com. And you can subscribe for free or pledge for $5 a month. Help us out. Help us build this. Because anything that you would pledge is going to go right back into this podcast and try to make this movement a reality. But yeah, let's get to the show. So I am the legacy of Jennifer Ent Kaiser. I am Zachary Kaiser, Buckeye Zach, as Andrew would refer. This is Andrew Joseph, and like to welcome Sonja Agora to the show. How are you doing today? Or tonight, rather, for me. It's almost dark. Same for
Yeah,
Andrew.
I'm doing great this afternoon over here. I'm down at my family's farm. So I normally live in northern Oregon. My family has a farm down in southern Oregon. So I'll come down here and help them out with stuff sometimes and train interns. So I'm doing great.
Sounds good. You said Oregon, so are there? I've been really getting back into my Bigfoot and cryptid phase as of
Oh,
recently.
yeah.
Any sightings or any of the like with Bigfoot down there?
That I feel like, Oregon has a bit of that, but it's very
Mm.
Washington Gorge area. Like they go nuts
Mhm.
over there for that. I feel like I run into less people over here with Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
I'm sure. I mean, they're everywhere. They're definitely everywhere. They're seen in every place, or at least the aspect of them everywhere. Broken trees, footprints. But
Yeah,
I
something
mean,
weird, something weird in the woods around here.
Yeah.
exactly. It is a Washington thing, though. Like I forget what the Patterson videos came out of Washington. So it's
Yeah,
amazing. I mean, even today, it was done in the '70s, and it's just clear cut, and it's just amazing that they were able to catch something like that. And here we are, got our smartphones, can't even catch anything. We
Right.
got camera in the pocket, so
yeah. I mean, it's like that time, like you see something freaky in the sky. You see a light moving around in a way it's not supposed to, and you go out to record and you can't capture it.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100 times zoom. Trying to,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
it, so.
Sounds like it's either aliens or a government conspiracy. So I prefer the aliens.
Yeah.
They just don't seem so. But fascinating. Oregon, you own, so your family owns farm. You have your own farm. So tell me, like, what is it? Everyday life, just running a farm, maintaining it.
Well, so I don't personally own a farm. I'm working on a friend's farm as their animal manager right now where I live. But as far as the day to day with my folks' farm, which is like a production level farm, they're serving like almost, I think, 600 families across Oregon right now. They are one of the largest raw dairies in Oregon. So when you're a raw dairy, that takes up, that precedent.
Yeah.
You have your milking in the morning, you have your milking at night. Right now, they're only milking about 16 cows, but they have a bunch of pregnant cows that are going to be calving soon, and so it'll go up for sure. But that's like 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening, and then feeding all the hogs and the chickens. And they're actually doing a really cool meat chicken production right now, so that they can incubate the eggs from these meat chickens and then sell chicks, become a chick provider that are unvaccinated, because people are trying to find meat chickens that are unvaccinated and you can't buy them from any of the hatcheries anymore. So people really want that. So anyways, we're feeding all of that. And then you have like a huge chunk of time in the middle of the day for projects, which is like fixing pig pens. Pigs need to constantly move to new areas, so you have to like go build them the next area. You have to check fences. We're trying to move the boar into a better place because he's become a little ornery, so we don't really want him getting out. And it's just, a lot of times it is like controlled chaos, especially when dealing with animals. So you're kind of putting out fires all the time, but trying to like build for the future at the same time. But you do the best you can, and it also depends on how many hands you have. If you're short on hands, then things slow up a little bit.
No, that's fascinating on just how busy. You constantly are. It seems like it's just never ending. Like it's always something for the most part.
If you have enough people and you do things right, then there is Joel Salatin talks about this, and he's like a farming guru, amazing person. That at the height of summer, when it's unbearably hot out, you should have everything wrapped up to the point where you can have downtime. And that's family time, that's working on projects in the house or whatever. And then also after the fall harvest, in the deepest part of winter, you also have downtime. And if you don't get that, it definitely does wear on you. So
always got to find some peace of mind in some case. So, but it's but at the same time, it sounds like it's just better to be active, period. So that way you don't have everything like weighing down on you, like real life in your mind, like
but too focused on the real life too. It's like that birth and mud and like it's I think it's an essential part of the human condition that we're mostly missing out on, because there's all these problems in the world that are very interesting to focus on and legitimate, but you end up looking at them through a different lens when you're dealing with real life stuff happening.
So it's just like everything that goes on. You said controlled chaos, so like it's controlled chaos within your own realm, and then it's controlled chaos on the out realm. Sometimes you got to pick and choose what chaos do you want. It's like
that's a good way to put it. It's like, everything is falling apart out in the world right now, but I can fix this fence. Like I can keep my pigs in. Like I can harvest food. I can butcher this cow. I can heal this animal. I can't solve the world's problems. What can I do for me and my community right now?
And some would say that's how you solve the world's problems, is focus on you and your family and your community.
Maybe,
maybe the world has to burn just in order for like things to become more simpler, I guess. And it's never going to be simple. I mean,
Yeah,
so
the more you can automate, the more problems come up that require more automation. So,
mm-hmm,
Mhm.
mm-hmm,
Yeah, and like finding ways to become more efficient at all times.
yeah,
Conserve your energy, and automation has a big role to play with that. There's an amazing account I follow. He's got I'm gonna butcher it. Live to farm livefarm.org. Lewis Getterman on X. He's all about the integration of technology with this kind of more primitive way of living. Because
mm-hmm,
yeah,
I was telling him the other day, like the pendulum swings both ways. We've
mm-hmm,
gone so far away from our natural way of being and become so dependent on all these systems that we've created with our super amazing human minds,
mm-hmm,
that cause like a lot of issues the farther we get away from what makes us human. That
mm-hmm,
for me, the pendulum is swinging the other way, where it's like I want to reject everything. I want to reject all technology. Like I want to use a wagon and horses. Like I don't want to depend on the system at all. And then there's reasonable people like Lewis who are like, hey, like there is this really cool integration that can happen with technology. We just need to utilize it. It's going to be used against us if we don't use it. So I'm learning a lot from my conversations with him. And I think that's an avenue that definitely needs to be explored.
And his website, if you want to check it out again, is livefarm.org or livefarm.org.
I think so. I might have to plug it later, but I'm looking it up right now because I feel bad for plugging him and not doing it correctly. Hold on. Lewis, I mean his if you go to his Twitter, which is that's easy, at LTGIV. And then the links for www.livefarm is on there. Anyways.
I'll drop show notes too. So when we go review this, that way anybody can go check it out. Because I mean that's how you learn. Like it's great to follow accounts like that or find. I mean the internet's wonderful. I mean it's gravitated like larger communities of people. There's drawbacks.
Yeah.
I mean you can meet so many different people that you would never even thought in your life that you would have met them. Like somebody 3,000 miles away never would have dreamed of being able to interact with them, and then next thing you know, you're zooming people or you're following people on X. I mean, and just communicating, and then you're building a base. I mean, technology is great, and you just have to innovate with it. You can't forget that you got other things going on.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things that makes us rise above other species, our ability to innovate and adapt. And so there is this technology out of there, like let's use it. Like I got on X, I think in 2021. I only started using it this last July, and I've somehow cultivated this super amazing community. Like I don't know how I have an overall like 99% of the time positive experience on X. Like I found this really great echo chamber, that I'm constantly trying to break though. But it's been really positive, and I've made all these connections with people all around the country and the world that are interested in the same things and trying to do the same thing. And that's one of my big motivators, is trying to network and connect people with each other, because you could have the most amazing operation all by yourself in the middle of nowhere. And if things don't work out very well, you're a sitting duck. You have to connect. We're not meant to go it alone. We have to have.
Well, speaking of sitting ducks, we're talking about this. I remember seeing a couple years ago in the cryptosphere, there was some people who had live streamed their chicken coop, and they would, every time someone would send them a payment, they release a little food to the chicken, and it was kind of wild to watch. So
What?
yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Would they not feed unless people?
Well, no. I mean, like they'd feed them, but like every time someone would send them a payment, they would feed them, give them a little extra food.
What?
Yeah.
Give a little bonus.
Yeah.
Kind of amazing. I've joked about instead of OnlyFans, we should have Only Farms, and
Oh,
just be like, you know, video content of people doing like farm stuff.
Yeah.
But, you know,
Running, yeah.
making money
Mm,
doing farm stuff, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
that'd be fascinating. Somebody running the reaper right there in the background.
Feeding the chicken, you know,
Mm-hmm.
people are just smashing that button.
Yeah.
For more content, right? Instead of
Yeah.
this
Oh
OnlyFans.
man.
Although from what I've heard, I mean, I guess there's more to OnlyFans than I guess the porn aspect that it's become known for, I guess. But it
Sure.
that's the problem is like we've become so, I don't know, we've become so timid as a culture that is what gets everybody off. When in
Yeah.
reality, I mean, there should be more of a drive, and it's
Mhm.
Well, it's comfort.
Yeah.
Mm,
You know, we can complain all day about how like messed up America is and where it's going. We're so comfortable. We're so
we,
comfortable though. Like I'm complaining about having to like register my vehicle while I have
mm-hmm,
a vehicle to drive around, and I have, you know, I if I need to go get food, I can get food, and we're so comfortable and pampered, and that's the dangerous
mm-hmm,
thing, you
yeah,
know,
Yeah, it
because this
is.
what's that quote? I actually don't know who made the quote, but the soft men create hard times, or weak men create hard
mm-hmm,
times,
Yeah.
strong hard men, blah blah blah. I truly think that we are at the time of really good times, um,
mm-hmm,
and generally like weak people, weak men, and it's great, and it's like it's hard to make a big fuss about things
mm-hmm,
because is it that bad? Like maybe it's not. Like maybe it's
mm-hmm,
not time to like make a really big fuss, and then oh, it happened to us, and we didn't make a fuss. And so
mm-hmm,
yeah, like people being comfortable, of course they want to sit in front of their laptop on OnlyFans, you know,
mm-hmm,
ordering takeout. That
mm-hmm.
that
Yeah.
ooh, why not?
Yeah, or YouTube and a podcast series, or funny or adorable cats. So
Yeah, I mean, I get stuck on YouTube Shorts. I mean, it's mostly like jujitsu. I've really curated my YouTube Shorts. I'm very careful. It's like gun
mm-hmm,
stuff, farming stuff, jujitsu. That's it.
Yeah.
mm-hmm,
I have a friend that diversifies each account as one specific topic. So
Yeah, you gotta be careful with how the algorithm will send you. It'll like throw stuff
mm-hmm.
at me, being like, "Watch this."
yeah.
I'm like, "I will not." Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have my shorts are kind of all over the place, and I think it's because I stick to like Red Dead Redemption short videos of people
Yeah.
playing those games, and then a bunch of little cop audit videos.
I have cop
That-
audit videos. Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I'm like, this is fine, you know.
yeah, but then all of a sudden you just get that random, like, I don't know, that random cat video or
Yeah,
somebody doing some silly little dance. Is like, how is this? What? I
yeah.
mean, funny.
Sometimes I catch myself watching it. I'm like, you know, watching it, and then I'm like, no, 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 what have I done? You know, it trapped me.
Mhm.
Too
They've
late. Now I want a cat.
It's amazing what you can learn with YouTube Shorts, though. It's like if I want to sit down and educate my kids about the world or current affairs, I'll just like sit with me while we scroll through these YouTube Shorts. You know,
Mhm,
Yeah.
learn about jujitsu. You know, and then
mhm,
next thing you know, it's like the history of, you know, American, some weird side story, American Revolution.
mhm.
You know, it's pretty cool. It seems pretty harmless, but
It seems pretty harmless, but then it's shrinking our attention span, sadly. But
oh, definitely.
but the shorts are great. I remember before my mom passed, she was getting into the TikToks, and there were certain things that she ended up going and expanding further because they have like YouTube series. I mean,
Yeah.
but she'd find recipes on TikTok that people would talk about. She followed a bunch of people that did TikToks for farmers. Speaking of farms, and she we learned what is his name? He wears the ball cap. He does the I have drawing a blank, but he does stories of like different histories into like the weird and the unknown. Mr. Ballin. So Mr. Ballin's fantastic, but learn from him through like TikTok, and then he has his own podcast and YouTube, and he just goes through like he brilliant storyteller, but different histories of like different crimes and weird and strange happenings that have occurred in the history of humankind. So there's a lot of things that you can find.
Attention span's a real thing. Like I've noticed that
Mm-hmm.
with Twitter. Like I like to post videos. I also post them to my YouTube, but it's just not the same engagement.
Mm-hmm.
But when and if I write something that's super wordy, then it doesn't get very good engagement because people can't read. But if I just write like a sentence of something that seems really basic to me and I just want to say it, then it goes off, or an image. Because that's where we're at. We have like 3 generations now with this sort of like immediate technology response. Yeah.
So I mean, it's amazing that a meme can take off like that, but I mean, it really
warfare is a thing. Powerful imagery.
I mean, that's if you want to get a message out, that's the way to do it. But I mean, it's still very harmful because nobody's able to gravitate towards anything else anymore. I mean, we're, like you said, we've gotten comfortable and we just want short, sweet, and to the point for anymore. So
yeah, I mean, if you read like the brochures and the missives that were sent out like during the time of the revolution, and they would send out these pamphlets to the people to inform them what's going on, and like Thomas Paine, etc. And like I'm trying to read that, and I'm like, it's so wordy and deep, and there's so much philosophy injected, and like referring to other like famous works by other philosophers, and people would read this. This was their tabloid. They would just read this and understand it and like be able to engage with it. And nowadays it's like I have to just make like a cartoon. And they're like, we did it,
That's
really
the limited context.
Yeah. And I do miss I don't know, academia is really cool. I think there's some really great things about academia if you can get in there and discuss it, philosophize and debate with each other. But it's not great for trying to reach a wider audience. And but I've also given up a long time ago on trying to save everyone.
Yeah.
Not my problem. That's not my battle.
I mean, who wants to read tomes on their days off, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, radical self-reliance, and then find people that are doing the same thing. That's it. That's it.
Yeah. So speaking of self-reliance and sustainability, what's your take on how to gravitate towards I had it better in my mind, the question. What do you think is the easiest way for someone to get started into trying to be more self-reliant in their everyday life? Say they just live in like a little apartment. What can they do inside their apartment just to do little things, like from growing just maybe some spices to something?
Okay. That's a good question. Okay, so if you live in an apartment, you can't really so you have to focus. You're not going to be able to provide for yourself, obviously, because you're in an apartment. So you have to rely on other people. So you have to rely on the relationships that you're going to make with people who actually are able to do the things that you need. So you need to have something to offer. And it really could be anything. And so this is where people are like, but I don't want to become a farmer. It's like, you don't have to become a farmer, but you do have to become self-reliant and then inter-reliant with a community that appreciates you, and there's reciprocity. So yeah, you're in an apartment, but like, what do you do? Like, what's your job? Okay, like you work in tech. There's a lot of ways that could be transferred to people, especially in farms who are usually disadvantaged in that area. Or you're a stay-at-home mom in an apartment and you have a lot of time on your hands and you're just there at home. It's like, what's your passion? Like, do you want to knit? You want to like make stuff? Like, honestly, it's literally like find a niche that people need and exploit that and get it to people that need it, and then barter. It's, you focus on your number one thing, which is food. If you have food security, you're good to go on everything. If you can feed yourself and your family, you can probably withstand a war. It's far more valuable than bullets, guns. If you have food, these are the logistics that people don't think about. They're like, I have like 75 guns and a whole bunch of ammo. Like, that's awesome. Everyone should have that. That's awesome. Do you have comms? Do you have water? Do you have food? Where are you going to go? You're stuck in the city. How are you going to get all your guns out in the first place? Like, do you have a relationship with a farm that is going to, they already know you and they trust you. They're going to take you in, and then you have something to offer them in exchange for you eating their food. So think about things that you can create and you can do, or skills that you can increase that are valuable to other people.
Listen, some people are going to have to get rid of that year's supply of toilet paper eventually.
Yeah, there you go. I got so much toilet paper. Let me know your farm. I will share.
That'd be such a high commodity. That might just turn
or like stockpile cigarettes. Like
hand sanitizer.
Yeah, whiskey. Like, you're good to go. If you live in an apartment and you don't know what to do, just start buying whiskey and cigarettes. And you're going to be fine. But no, as far as like self-reliance, like, honestly, if you're in an apartment in the city, then you need to be working every day, all day, towards getting yourself out of that situation. And they would already know. Like, if you were already thinking about that, you would already know that this does not fit into the goal. But a lot of it is just getting out there and making yourself uncomfortable and meeting people and going to farms. A great way to start, because people are always asking me, well, how do we find farms? Like, I live here. How do I connect with the farm? And I always say, just go to realmilk.com and they have a raw milk finder. And you don't need to be into drinking raw milk. It's not about that. It's that these people that are producing this very regulated, pretty illegal, depending on the state, food, they're already kind of gonna be on the same wavelength as you. And so and they're probably producing a lot of other stuff, or they know other people. So at least like start there, and secure your food. And if you don't have money for it, a lot of these farms want labor. They want volunteers. They want help. Like, go there. Or they have an internship program. Awesome. Go live there for 3 months. Bring your families. Learn all these skills and then apply it somewhere else.
Well, let me ask you something. I don't know, about a year and a half ago, there was a TikTok trend of people destroying farm products like milk and stuff like that. Do you know anything about that? Like, giving some context about that?
Right? Like, what? They
were being instructed by the government to destroy food and stuff like that.
That was
I
a
don't
year
know if
ago?
that's legitimate. I think that was about a year and a half ago.
That's interesting. I mean, the war on real food has been going on for 50 plus years. When we first started this whole endeavor, it was about 12 years ago that we moved out to this farm. And right before that, we started drinking raw milk, and we just kind of went down a rabbit hole. And we were hearing all sorts of stories about, like, it's a felony if I sell raw milk in Oregon to someone in Idaho and transport it to them. It's a felony. And so there are stories about, what was one of them? There's a famous farm raid, Rawsome Farms. They got raided for their raw milk a long time ago. And then, there's videos from a long time ago of trucks being pulled over on the side of the road by staters them having to cut all the milk on the side of the road. So it's cool that it was a TikTok trend a year ago. I wish people would pay more attention to this. A good friend of my family, Mark Baker, he's with Mark Baker's Green Acres. I always get it wrong. He's in Wisconsin or Michigan. But he had an embargo from the government on his farm where they blocked him from receiving feed because they wanted him to shut down his operations because they decided that his very heritage breed of hogs called Mangalitsa's were feral and they needed to be exterminated. And he's like, no, these are my pigs. This is what I raise. This is my livelihood. And it's this whole crazy story. It's completely wild. The community stepped in to help him. He eventually won, but they were really trying to crush him. So yeah, the war on real food is it's a really big thing that a lot of people don't pay attention to. Yeah,
and it goes back to going to policy and history, and it really goes back to Teddy Roosevelt's war against the smaller farms and the smaller food production and slaughterhouses, and the founding of the food and the first established Food and Drug. I forget exactly what it was called then, but the Food and Drug Act of like 1908, 1907, 08, something like that.
Yeah, and the creation of the USDA and pasteurization, which is such a wild story. Why we pasteurize all of our milk, which is basically to cover up human error in the city, because we're in the Industrial Revolution, right? Like, so you're like the Industrial Revolution, everything's industrialized, and we're like, let's do this, let's mass produce milk from cows. We have all distilleries, we have all this spent grain from the distilleries in these big buildings. Let's put the cows in the basement and we'll put them in the dark, standing in their own filth, and feed them these spent grains from the distillery, and then we'll sell the milk. It's gonna be awesome. And everyone gets tuberculosis. Like, everyone is sick. Seriously. So the milk, they had to add calcium, like chalk powder to it to make it white because it was blue. Everyone has tuberculosis. Everyone is sick. It's an epidemic. But in the countryside, where they're not doing this crazy stuff, everyone's fine. There's no TB. There's no illness. Everyone's totally fine. Raw milk. And so then Louis pasteurization comes in, and he's like, I forgot what experiment he was doing, but he realized, I can just superheat the milk, and that solves the problem. Yay! Awesome. And that solved the problem without ever talking about the issue was what humans did that was stupid in the first place, like directly interfering with nature, trying to industrialize things that we're not supposed to.
I mean, it's fascinating with pasteurization. I mean, you can do that really just on your own. I mean, if you really want pasteurized milk, find a dairy farmer or somebody who sells raw milk and buy it and pasteurize it yourself if you like. That way you take the middleman out, the USDA out. You take the supermarket.
Personal responsibility. If you're worried about salmonella or whatever, don't eat raw meat. Cook your steak to death. That's your choice. Restaurants are actually doing that really well. They're like, this is raw. If you eat this, here's a disclaimer, and you might get sick. That's working really well. Why does Thomas Massey is introducing the Prime Act, which I was pretty oppositional to at first, because I'm just anti new laws being created to help us do things that we should already be allowed to do anyways. I have some things to say about it, but I'm okay with it at this point. As far as senators go, I like Massey. But
he's doing he's actually doing his part, I guess, in Washington. He owns his own farm too, so he kind of understands it, I guess. So it's just the law aspect. We need more laws.
Right. But he was saying like the Prime Act, and I was like, yeah, like, what about, like, dude, like, just abolish the USDA? Like, can you just write a bill that says let's get rid of this, like I would totally support that. Like I understand what you're trying to do. You're trying to minimize the damage that this out of control agency is already doing. But why do we need it?
Yeah. I
We
mean,
don't.
they have these narrow views for these very specific problems and apply them universally across the country. And I mean, it's like
That's the problem.
back during the FDR administration, the Gacheta brothers, I think it's how it's pronounced, they actually filed a lawsuit against the USDA because they were trying to force them to process their food in a specific way that went against their religious views. So,
which then jumps into another unconstitutional ordeal. I mean, with your First Amendment. I mean,
yeah. I mean, that's what really radicalized me. Like, I didn't really think about politics when I first moved to when my family first bought this farm back in 2012, 2011. I didn't really think about politics. Like, it's just radar. I didn't care. But then I, very quickly realized in operating a small farm that it was illegal for me to sell a ham to my neighbor. And I was like, that's kind of what pushed me being like, oh, I'm a libertarian. Like I'm not, Republicans don't seem to have issues with this either, or the Democrats. And I was like, oh, like I should just take it's personal responsibility. We tell people, like I tell people all the time, it's like, you want raw milk? That's awesome. Go to the farm that you want to buy raw milk from and check it out yourself. Like my family's farm has an open door policy. If you want to buy products from us, come here, see the process, see the milking process, and then buy from us. Why wouldn't you go look at what, like, most of the food in the grocery store, if you went to where that was produced, you'd be disgusted. You would never. It's horrifying.
Well, that's so funny that you mentioned that. My brother actually, he's a vegetarian now for a reason, because he actually, while he was in law school, he was doing a thesis on the meat packing industry and slaughterhouses and what they do, and from what he researched and what he saw watching documentary, I mean, just acknowledging that, and the inhumane condition these animals are treated, as well as the disgusting conditions that a lot of these places are. He hasn't eaten meat since, he's 30 now. He'll be 31 in January. He hasn't eaten meat since he was 21. Yeah, about 10 years he hasn't eaten meat because of that. I mean,
that's real conviction, but I also, like, this is like my conspiracy theory, is that they play off of that. So but let's take something that's really good, like meat production, and the nutrient benefit you get from eating meat, and let's make it so bad that if you're a really good, thoughtful person, that you can't do anything but reject it. Like, we're going to create these CAFOs, and we're going to make it so inhumane and make the food so bad for you that, anyone in the right mind would look at that and be like, yeah, that's not for me. That's a bad thing, especially people who are compassionate or are thoughtful or are, like, digging deeper and thinking about things like this. So then those people, of course, they reject it completely. They're like, well, I don't want anything to do with that. That's obviously horrible. Yes. If my only option for meat was CAFOs and factory farms, then I would probably be a vegetarian too. But it's not my only option. And this is the argument I get in with vegetarians and vegans, not very often, but that there is an alternative. There is a middle ground that no one wants us to explore. Because if you want to argue the health benefits of meat and dairy with me, I'll do that all day. But if you're talking about ethics and your moral standing, that's up to you. That's not my problem. I can argue it a bit because I am a part of this holistic relationship with these animals. But at the end of the day, that's up to you.
And I was gonna say, like, where I get my meat from, I'll stay small, definitely, for the meat, and I'll go to, like, the local IGA store just 15 miles away from me, because I know that their store still gets the meat, gets all their beef and chickens from the local farms around the area that I live in.
Yeah.
And I know that just from living in the area most of my life, and
Yeah.
then actually just looking more into it. I was like, no, I'll go to Rising Sun ICA, Walmart, Kroger. No, sorry.
All the
Even all,
chickens from China.
yeah,
Right.
most of
That's I've heard a lot about that.
Where
mhm,
they
That's the big problem.
the chicken is actually no. So the chicken's produced here.
mhm,
They ship the dead chickens to China
yeah.
to process, and then they ship them back.
So then you have, yeah, then you have all that because you're shipping them back and forth. Like, just think of how, like, all of the bacteria that's growing, doing
Well,
all
that's why
that.
they give them ammonia baths.
Hmm.
Honestly, salmonella is probably better for you than like the stuff they treat them with.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You're getting it.
Probably, I'd rather have salmonella than drop dead from ammonia poisoning. So, but I mean, it is what it is. I mean, we just got to break that cycle, I guess. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I try not to be judgmental. I have been in the past very high and mighty, like on my pedestal about you should eat this and this is what you should be doing, and if you're not, then you're stupid. And I've gotten a lot calmer about it. Like I'll eat out. I don't
mhm,
know what I'm eating, but I'm out. And I didn't prepare, and you know what? The human body is an amazing filter. And
mhm,
I'm just doing the best I can, making the impact that I can in
mhm,
my community and trying to educate people. So that's the
mhm,
only thing I
Yeah.
can do. If people come to me, I'm not going to go out there and stand on my soapbox and lecture everyone about how they
mhm,
should be living their life. I'm doing the best that I can. And if people come to me and ask me things, then I will impart whatever I can to them. But at the same time, it's like we're human beings just trying to figure it out. And a lot of
mhm,
us, honestly, are NPCs that don't want to figure it out, and we're never going to. So
mhm,
Yeah.
that's okay
mhm,
too. Like it sucks, but if you wake up, like come find me.
mhm. That brings me to another point, like NPCs. I mean, going on to a supernatural and paranormal aspect. I mean, maybe this is a otherworldly simulation, and there are certain people that are just programmed a certain way to just go through the motions. So maybe it is all a simulation. We're all the.
Simulation sometimes really lines up really well.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
I think it's also things that we come up with to make ourselves feel better about the
mhm,
situation.
mhm,
Kind of like, yeah, like if reptilians were running the government, honestly, that makes me feel a lot better than thinking that humans are really that bad. So how
yeah,
much of it is like us consoling ourselves,
mhm,
you know? But yeah, simulation theory makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I think I think that's why holidays are such a big deal.
mhm,
People always complain about like what's going to happen during Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas dinner or whatever, because you're going to say something crazy and the whole family like doesn't want to see it or think about it. They
mhm,
just want to talk about like what they're going to eat next. You
mhm,
Yeah.
know, like mundane things, and you feel like you're going crazy. Maybe it's because they're all NPCs. I don't know. Like
yeah. They're all
here's the thing about
NPCs.
like how there's a certain percentage of the population that doesn't have inner dialogue.
Mhm,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's real. I can't imagine that.
Like they're almost like they say like a sociopath doesn't have a. I can't remember if it's a
There was
sociopath.
like
Like,
someone in a video saying like, I don't have inner
yeah,
dialogue. Like
yeah.
I don't have
It
like what are you talking about?
yeah, it's almost similar like that. The difference is like a sociopath just does evil things because they don't have that inner dialogue accordingly. But what if those people, there are certain sociopaths that they don't do anything bad, they just live. I
Yeah.
mean, they don't have anything in their mind to tell them. They don't have their conscience like the old cartoon angel and devil on the right and the left shoulder, like telling them what they shouldn't do or what they should. They just do it. They just do what they, and maybe that's why there's so much misery, why there's so much depression.
Maybe.
Maybe they just run for to be politicians.
Yeah.
They're just failed politicians. So,
Yeah.
or
I mean, they
actually,
were new successful politicians besides the ones that died. So
yeah. So, actually, I was going to say they're actually very successful. You know the joke here, Andrew. They're
yeah.
very successful. They want to be very failed, like Tom Woods. Everybody wants to be Tom Woods.
Uh,
Well,
So
let me ask you something because you mentioned conspiracy theories earlier. Now I remember back in the '90s and the early 2000s, like listen to the overnight radio and stuff like that, and they would talk about like these animals that would just they'd find them with all the blood sucked out of them without. Do you know what I'm talking about?
yeah,
Was
wasn't it
that
like the
legitimate or was that
chupacabra?
just? I'm sorry.
Wasn't it like the chupacabra? Or are you talking about like when people were finding their
Like
cows like completely drained of blood?
yeah, cows completely drained of blood, like up in Idaho and stuff
hmm
like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember that.
hmm
Did you ever like experience that or hear anything like that in person?
No.
No.
Mm, no, I remember getting there was like a call to action for someone in like Lynn County, Oregon, because a bunch of their cows were found butchered in a field,
Yeah.
clearly by like not animals.
hmm
That was a weird thing. I don't actually remember what happened with that. I don't think they ever found anything out. We were all kind of on the lookout though. Um, I think people just decided that it was like random hungry. I don't know. It was kind of a weird thing. Now that you mention it, I kind of forgot about that. But the drain of blood thing, no. I mean, that's obviously aliens.
Yeah. I don't know. I
Evidently,
just figured I'd
it's
ask.
gotta be aliens. Now
Yeah.
you're speaking my language. Actually, I was gonna follow that up because it's amazing. Like when you notice like these little things that pop up with cattle just lying there, just dead on the ground. Nothing like half the time they're not even dismembered, but there's always like
Puncture
three,
injection.
yeah,
Like,
like little three. They look like needle marks. They don't even look like fangs or anything. It looks like someone injected them with something, and then obviously, like you said, like all the blood. There's no blood leaking anywhere. They're just dead. That's like yeah. So I mean, it's interesting. It makes you wonder who or what does this. I mean, could it be a chupacabra? Is it aliens? I mean, could it be just a bunch of psychotic TikTokers listening to government algorithms? I don't know, but
there's a lot of unexplained things. I know, and I was listening to one of Joe Rogan's recent ones. He had like the alien
With Bob
DHS,
Lazar.
yeah, whistleblower. And I was
Yeah.
trying to tell my husband, I was like,
Mhm,
no, this guy's like legit. He testified to Congress. My husband's like,
mhm,
and I was like, no, he's saying things that we haven't heard before. Like he's
mhm,
literally confirming that they have biological material and tech from
mhm,
something else. And
mhm,
that's a big deal. And no one's talking about it. And honestly, like 30, 40 years ago, if there was disclosure about UFOs, everyone would be losing their minds. Like we'd be
mhm,
demanding answers right now. Like we want to see the bodies,
mhm,
Yeah.
like, and now it's like, oh yeah, like we have alien spacecraft, like they've been here and they're weird. The
mhm.
end. And we're like, oh,
But
it's
I think a lot of that is, I mean, the comfort aspect, and then we're just built different now because of like the mass cognitive dissonance and the manipulation, and then of like the show. I mean, look at the shows that we're like the longest running show at this moment with aliens is Ancient Aliens. So
yeah.
now it's like whatever. I mean,
But that's what my husband said. He was like, well, when they say it's real, it's no longer interesting. They're like,
yeah.
yep, it's real. Like, because they denied for so
hmm
long. And then they're
hmm
like, yeah, it's a real thing. And everyone's like, oh.
hmm I mean,
Anyway, like,
yeah.
what else is on?
hmm
Yeah.
I mean, you had at one point you had like you had the Majestic Eight. I mean, investigations back in like the 50s and the 60s. I mean, that recently got somewhat declassified. I think it got fully declassified like 10 years ago. But declassified, obviously redacted on a lot, but I mean, and that's known. But I mean, anything else that's they're actively, if you watch the news, like they've actually been actively like saying aliens, they're real. I mean, and you start
Pentagon's
wondering
released
why.
videos.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
It's
Pentagon or
like,
the
and we'll drop another ad.
right?
Yeah, go to t.me/otaku sauce for your memes, your recipes, and Andrew's bald head.
Hey, it's very bald.
Yeah, it's very bald. So if you come back, check out the Legacy Right. Check us out on YouTube, like, subscribe. If you head over to the Substack and you pledge $5 a month for my new, not really newsletter, my perspective pieces and just my stories. I mean, pledge $5 a month, and you will get to meet. We will figure out a way to set up somewhere where you can meet Andrew and rub his bald head. He's magic, everybody. So,
Yeah.
but I'm not pushing it. You don't have to. I mean, no, it'd be nice. It'd be nice. So, well, but we are back.
Yeah.
So, and yes,
Aliens.
aliens, Anunnaki, things, strange things from above, or just government mass manipulation. You know, I mean, the cognitive dissonance is definitely real in today's day and age. So, I mean, people just, I don't know, like you said, I mean, we're comfortable. So
Yeah.
we're so.
They want to be distracted from reality.
Mm-hmm.
Reality is really uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
It's cold, it's wet, it's too hot, it's sticky, it's bloody, it's messy. Like, and then that's my fear, is people getting farther and farther from what makes us human, which are the hard things. This is not supposed to be easy. I don't care if you're coming from like a atheist perspective or a biblical perspective. Like, the human condition is not supposed to be an easy thing.
Yeah.
That we're supposed to feel all of these hard emotions and go through hardships and challenges. So whenever anything is like advanced to try and make the way easier for us, I just think about that. I don't know if it's a Pixar movie or Disney, but Wall-E, with like, you know, the humans and their pods, and they're like been in space for like 1,000 years because they destroyed the Earth or whatever. And they're just like drinking out of, like, eating out of straws, and just like they can't even walk. And that's kind of horrifying. Like, when I think about like advancing technology and like going into space and stuff, it's like, that's cool, like to spread humanity throughout the cosmos, but at the same time, it's like, what is that then? Like,
yeah, I'd rather
putting your feet on the ground.
I mean, if we're gonna go out into space and spread, I'd like to have like a Star Trek reality, because that seems like it's, I don't know, it's not only fun but real, like,
Yeah.
but it's not going to happen anytime soon. And when you think about everything that's going on now, I mean, we're not ready for that, and I don't think we'll ever be ready for that, even if we get the technology. I mean, and like you said, I mean, just to be able to set foot on solid ground and walk. I mean, that's the basic aspect of the human condition, is to experience life and the smells and the textures of Earth. I mean, to feel the breeze. And then what are you going to do on a space station or on the Enterprise D? I mean, breathe artificial recycled air so you can survive. Walk around a ship concealed in a vacuum and hope that everything is maintained properly. I mean, there's
like, how terrifying. Like, being on a plane is weird enough. Like, I'm in a cylinder in the sky flying, made by humans. Hopefully it works. I guess like the idea about space travel is like new frontiers, like that's cool. But it'd be nice if we like utilize the resources we have here correctly in the first place, which we're not doing. You know, I'm not a climate change person. I'm not a deep overpopulation person at all. But I do know that we are like totally underusing our resources and overusing area. You know, which is to the detriment of people's liberty and independence. Like all, you know, like government monopolies with corporations like Nestle buy up all the land in Africa, pull the water out. So all the farmers that were farming, totally farming for a long time, now they're living in this very dense, overpopulated city that's garbage. And then they're like, we're overpopulated. It's like, no, you guys created the problem. You know, reaction solution. Like, I don't know why people, I can't understand that.
I think Ronald Reagan had something to say about that. Ronald Reagan of everybody,
Really?
And had something to say. He said, government is not the solution. Or no, how did the saying go? Andrew,
government is not the solution; it's the problem.
No, it didn't go like that. But
Yeah, that makes sense though.
Yeah, something like the government. Yeah. The government is here to help. Yeah.
Yeah. I do know that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
never trust the government when it says that the government
is here to help. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, it always goes back to centralization and things being too big, like the U.S. too big. Yeah. You know, if you want to regulate within your community with people that all agree, because they're in your tiny little community about what products are given to your neighbors, that's your choice within your area. That's agorism. That's a functional marketplace and agreement within people that actually impact your life and you impact their life. And if you don't like it, then you move somewhere else. You know, and that's the biggest issue is that things are just. It's just too big. So when I run into like libertarians that are globalists, I have a really hard time with that. They're like, oh, we have globalization. Like we need, no, we need to make everything so small, so small. You know, 100-person, 250-person communities that are totally self-reliant. And then they can do this awesome trade with this other community, this other one. You don't need to create some big monster that rules over all of them that doesn't know anyone in any of these communities or have anything to do with it.
Context versus content.
Yeah. So, and I think the interesting aspect of libertarian globalism, I think the idea of it is kind of okay for what we're already set up as. They're more just less intervention, like militarily, politically, and more free trade. I mean, so I guess that's a fair like fixer upper right there. But they're thinking too big. They're thinking too broad. But they're also thinking present right now. I think a lot of them. So, but no, I'd rather it be better to have. I mean, 50. I mean, this country's 50 states. Why not? Instead of one United States, you got the setup right there on a large 50 different countries. Well, why can't we do that with 50 different counties in each state, all self-reliant and governing of their own? I mean, and then it goes to the smaller. Then towns are more independent from the county.
There's supposed to be
because we need roads.
Because we need the roads. That's right.
It all goes back to the roads. Damn those roads.
Go back to that cobblestone. Who's gonna put that cobblestone down on our roads? I mean, I forgot who said it, and it's like the cap, the perfect number cap for a community is like 250 or something. And when you get bigger than that, then politics and social relations start to break down. And I think that's fascinating. Like, what if you just had like millions of these little 250? They're not going to like amass an army big enough to like take over the other community. They're just like doing the thing and are trading with each other. And it's like, this is the sheep community. You know, it's like a biome. Like, this is where they raise the best sheep, and we trade with them because we love their sheep. You know, and like, we do this, and like, I don't know, like, I don't, but what I'm asking for and the lens that I'm looking at things is, it would require a complete destruction of everything that we know. So it comes with we're not, there's no like moving forward into that.
Yeah.
And that's what I realized, was that we cannot move forward into greater things through our political processes anymore. Like, I was involved in politics. I worked on a bunch of campaigns, very into politics, and I just got burnt out because I was having these realizations, being like, humanity doesn't progress backwards, and a lot of the solutions that we need are behind us that we can go back to. Politics will never take us there. It only wants to march forward. And I can't be a part of that. I don't, we can't get to those solutions by marching forward. And
well, I look at it like this: like, anybody that gets into politics, they get into politics for two reasons. On the local level, because they're, most of the time anymore, because it's all been, at least in our country, it's all been nationalized and federalized, and nobody cares on the local level, even the state level. It's welfareism. It's just job security, easy paycheck, basically living off the public tit. And then the other reason is power and influence and legacy, really. I mean, and the legacy, very dangerous.
Legacy, but like, I remember wondering about that. Like, okay, like, let's say you're a really powerful politician. Like, everyone, even the worst people, feel completely validated in whatever.
Yeah.
You can be horrible. Hitler, horrible guy, did a bunch of bad stuff. He, for whatever reason, felt validated in what he was doing. Stalin felt validated in what he was doing. Pol Pot validated in what he was doing. So these politicians that are doing things that are clearly bad for liberty and individual freedom or our country or whatever, they feel validated for whatever reason for what they're doing. But when it comes to the fact that, like, they're destroying like the topsoil and the food production for their future generations, why are they doing this? It's not about money. Okay, then it's about power. But really, at the end of the day, everything we're doing is biologically driven for our legacy. They're destroying like the food systems for their legacy. Like, why? That's an area that I get stuck often, being like, yeah, they're evil, but they're not just like stupid evil. I hope. I don't know. Are they? Everyone's for their legacy. So.
Well, I think the politicians typically are pretty stupid.
Yeah, I mean,
they're puppets. I mean, but I think it can go deeper. And I mean, to go way down into the rabbit hole and onto a globalist level, I mean, you got a tiny group of elites that are inherently, they held a legacy. They've inherited their wealth and their influence from long ago, and they want to bring back like the old aristocracy, the old feudal days where you had like a divine rights of kings type of scenario, and you had the nobility, you had this caste system, and then you can control the masses a lot better if we're dumb, illiterate, and are dependent on the aristocrats of where to live, of what to eat, of what to work. And that's feudalism like 101. And I think a lot of that might have something to do with why they want to destroy food systems. I mean, food security and etc. I mean, basically undo everything that we as human beings have innovated in pursuing to become better, and then go backwards.
No, feudalism is very real. Like I
Hmm.
talk about how they want us, sick, poor, and dumb.
Hmm.
They don't want us dead. They just want us like barely functioning. They want us like
Hmm.
dependent on that sweet, sweet like pharma teat,
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
we're getting a lot of their money. And
Hmm.
but we're not strong enough to like fight back or really think that clearly. But we're still showing up to the grindstone. We're still working. We're still paying our taxes,
Hmm.
and we're still so busy with surviving that we're going to go fight each other for that sweet TV deal,
Hmm.
Black Friday or you know, freak out for the popular sports ball team,
Yeah.
which is all fine and dandy, but that's where they want us.
Hmm.
That's where they want us. They don't want us to be strong and independent. I mean, if I was a dictator, yeah, they're doing it perfectly.
Hmm. It's
How would
almost. Oh, go ahead.
no, I mean, how would you be a dictator and not want to just crush people into that level? You don't want to
Hmm.
breed a bunch of smart,
Mm-mm.
liberty-minded individuals.
Oh yeah, that's one reason why they always go for the intellectuals before anything. The
Mhm.
intellectuals are the ones that everybody in academia are the first ones to go as
Yeah.
soon as you have a despot. First, the it was Pol Pot. I mean, Pol Pot literally rounded up every intellectual. I mean, took them, made sure they went out to the fields and shot them all dead. I
Yep.
mean, Stalin had his purges. Hitler made sure that if you were gonna all the intellect was either gonna be within the Nazi party or you're dead. So I mean, and I think I see a little bit of like World War II in our day and age on a global level in politics, and of course it goes back to like Operation Paperclip and all this, the chase for all the Nazi scientists so our governments can create new technologies at the expense of people. But like Germany lost World War II, but the Nazis won. I mean, they really did. Because I mean, they're doing is they're doing exactly what we were fighting against, or so they say we were fighting against in World War II.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, and that's also why we didn't oppose Stalin and the Holodomor. Like
mm-hmm,
Yeah.
we're absorbing all of
mm-hmm,
their scientists and everything. We don't want to make a fuss about it. It's okay.
mm-hmm.
Like it's not happening. And so then you have this beautiful integration of fascism and communism, which are all too similar.
Mm.
Very, very similar. And it's also interesting, like if you look into the Middle East issues today and on the global level and where it goes back all the way to the 19th century, the Zionist movement, and then World War One and the British and the French, the Sykes Picot deal secretly provided and then came out into the public. That went against other agreements, and split the Middle East in half between France and Great Britain, and created the French-controlled Syrian region, most of Iraq, most of Syria, created the Palestinian Mandate that Great Britain controlled. I mean, it's almost like what the Holocaust happened for the murder of the Jews, like it was meant to happen so that the Allies could come in, save the day, and then have a reason to create this Jewish state, this lonesome Jewish state in the Middle East, which for the most part is just a European colony. I mean, not to say that I disagree with Jews. I mean, I myself is a descendant of a Jew, but the fact is it's control, it's power, and it's to give this movement something. And it just so happens that you had Zionism peak after World War One, and then you had the experimentation of the transplants into Palestine that led into various violent ordeals like the 1929 riots, which killed hundreds. And then you had the Nazis murder close to 6 million Jews, and the world went to war again with those 6 million Jews being murdered and displaced. Why not? Why not put the plan to fruition? Now they have a place, but you're also pushing other people away that have experienced that life in that region for at least 2,000 years. Since the Jews during diaspora have been gone, they've been everywhere. They've been everywhere but the Holy Land for 2,000 years.
Yeah. And
So,
I mean, I can only go back to like, United States, like every country, like non-interventionism. Like I at this point, I didn't realize it until I was arguing with people about this whole situation in the Middle East and my complete disinterest in it, honestly. But I'm a total
isolation.
Yes.
Yeah.
I honestly like, yeah, build the wall, build the wall around every country and do your thing and get some super awesome economic powerhouse from what you can create right there, and then trade with each other. It's going to be awesome. Have some super great national defense, pull all of your bases away from why are we there? I don't get it. I don't understand why we're the only ones that have ever dropped a nuclear bomb on anyone, and we're allowed to be the watchdogs of the world. Like, really? Like, that was really? I would rather just pull out of everywhere, do our thing over here, and people are like, but they're gonna build up an army and come attack us. Like, probably not. If we stop attacking them and invading their countries, they're probably gonna be like, oh God, great. Now we can put our money towards our economies and building up and making this a great country. Now that America has left. People get mad about that. I try not weigh in on the conflict over there because yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because in the 20s and the 30s, the Arabs, the Arab representatives there, led by, like, I think his name was Faisal at the time, but like at the end of World War One, like these Arab representatives actually wanted the United States to be the intermediary because we weren't the power that we obviously would eventually become. And we actually favored the non-interventionalist style, like let them just live side by side, stop messing everything up, stop backdooring agreements for your own secret deals. Like, we were on the side of the people in that region, Jew, Arab, what, it didn't matter. So, and effectively we got turned down, and the agreements, the Sykes-Picot agreement went through, and you had the powers of France and Britain take over. So, I mean, it's all fascinating, but at the same time, why are we over there now in today's world? The central bank, the petrodollar, it all comes down
war
to
interest.
Yeah, war interest is the commodity of oil, and what the U.S. dollar has to be backed by, considering there's nothing backing it.
Agenda 2030, really. Everything that I do and say is through that lens. That's the ultimate. That's where it's going.
Well, sometimes you got to be careful because neutrality can kind of be kind of a toxic thing too. Because like Europe mostly just stays out of the Middle East, right? But now they have all these people coming in from the Middle East because of all the war that's been going on over there, and they need somewhere to go. And so they're kind of pulling what the original Israelis did, and they're coming over to Europe in large numbers so that they can overshadow the population and run the show. So
that's true.
That can be dangerous.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I like the idea of isolationism, and just let me just deal and let me farm my memes on the internet and run my house in my 1 acre lot in Indiana, so and just maintain. So
no, it's true. I mean, global issues do tend to bleed over, so we can't completely ignore it, which is why I can't But at the end of the day, it's focusing on what's going on here at home that a lot of people are not paying attention to because they're paying attention to these global things, which are also important. But at the same time, there's all these things, freedoms being slowly peeled away. And cold, and people are it's just not as exciting to pay attention. Like people get really excited about activism when it's not an election year, and then the election year rolls around, everyone's like, we gotta vote, like we gotta campaign for this person and do this thing, and it's like, what about all this like activism that kind of transcends all of that, because it's all the time, like it's the purpose of the thing. And they're like, no, but this person's gonna save us. We have to. I'm like, okay. So, like I always hold my breath during campaign years, because it's like, okay, whenever you guys come back to reality, I'll be still doing the thing. Like, ready. Go do whatever.
Yeah, it's the most important election. The most important election of our life. Every 4 years.
Yeah. And it's like I know good people that are in, smaller office. Like I'm not discounting that, but it's the way that people completely shift their like fundamental visions because it's an election year. Like everyone loses their mind. I'm like, hey, like what about all these like programs and workshops and like trying to network with people and like build up this cause? And they're like, well, I really got to focus on this election. I'm like, okay. And yeah, I've gotten to the point now with politics that I don't think that it's the solution.
No,
never was. It's always been the problem. So, well, one final question for me, and that's we'll go into the deep dive of wanting your perspective on how do we get away from politics. So what is the best way to get people to understand that maybe we shouldn't be voting our lives away? So and shifting away from that into a more anti-political structure.
Okay. Yeah. So I did a lot of protests and rallies and like flag waves and like all sorts of stuff during 2020, 2021. And I realized through it that I was doing exactly what the government wanted us to do. It's cathartic. You go out into the street and you scream until you can't scream anymore. And then you go home and you pat yourself on the back and you say, yay, we fought for liberty, and that's it. And it's a really safe place for you to be put, to go out there and to protest and yell and rallies where people say things. And people are like, yeah, but it's not functionally doing anything. The same thing with voting for people. I don't know. I don't want to dissuade people from voting for very small office. But at the same time, counter economics are the most powerful way to combat and fight back against the government. If you can no longer depend on them for services that you need to be able to fulfill your life, you're in a very powerful position. And being able to set up your community in ways where you don't have to depend on the government is far more powerful than voting. The more people that you can put into your network, where we're not going to use your schools, we're not going to use your hospitals, we're not going to use your police or your security systems, we're not going to use your banks. Like it's all of these are human creations. We can create them again, and you can do it on a very small scale. And I know that there's still dependency on the systems, especially like the medical ones, but there's also ways that you can disengage. Like you don't need to go all your well baby visits. Maybe you should look into home birth. Maybe you should look into getting food from your local neighborhood farm instead of going to the grocery store. Like at least explore those different avenues and see what you can do to divest from the government, because we learned in 2020 how they could just strangle people, by blocking them from things that they need that were essential. Just like people were doing maskless shopping. And I was pretty adamant during that whole time that was a waste of time. These are private businesses. They can do whatever they want. Like, we do not need to go in there and demand that they serve us. Same thing at school board meetings, demanding that they let our kids back in school. And then it was like, wait, why don't we want our kids here in the first place? Same thing with hospitals, saving people from the hospitals that honestly created, from their interventions in the first place, they created the entire situation in the first place.
Yeah.
So there's a mindset and a cultural shift that needs to happen that not everyone's ready for, and that's okay. But yeah, figuring out how you can divest from the system, actually create interdependence in your community is the most powerful first step.
Yeah, it's all about options.
Well, I have a two-part question, just real quick to see your perspective before we wrap everything up. First part is Roger Ver from who runs Bitcoin.com and big in the crypto scene. He said he became a real American when he left. What do you think about that? Do you think that's an option for people?
He became a real American, so he became an expatriate?
Yeah.
Yes.
That was his big quote, was, I became a real American when I left. That's kind of butchering it, but I mean, it's just a short quote. So,
like, he could really appreciate American values after he left, or
like he was allergic to the way that the politicians were manipulating and abusing people, and so the American legacy is divorce. So he divorced America.
Go ahead. It doesn't matter where you live. Like, America is a grand experiment. It had never been done before at the time that it happened. The founders, I think, had good intentions. I think it was a really beautiful idea that they came up with. And clearly it became corrupted along the way. And I don't think that an original American vision was ever allowed to actually come to fruition. It's a really cool thing. A lot of other countries have their own battles that are being fought, and people that also want their own liberty. You can have American ideals or liberty ideals from any country, regardless of where you live.
And it's interesting. I mean, if I can bring that up, because another guy that we follow, his name is Andrew Henderson with Nomad Capitalism, and his most famous saying he always says is, "Go where you'll be treated best." And it's interesting to follow up on that. A lot of Americans are going down to Mexico. I mean, if do you have anything on that, on why you would think that would probably be the case? I mean, I kind of understand a little bit, but I want to get your perspective on that as well.
I mean, if you're coming from America to a country that's third world or less developed America, you're going to be in a better position in that other country than you will be in America. So then money really is an avenue to freedom. It really is. That's the ANCAP perspective. If you generate your own wealth, then you can generate your own freedoms as well. So yeah, that I think that's why you would do better in a different country.
Well, he basically asked the second question I had, so.
Well, go ahead, Andrew.
That was basically
literally the question.
The second part.
Oh,
yeah.
Was it really? Oh well,
yeah.
I'm stealing your time.
We think too well. Yeah.
We think way too well.
Say it, and we could edit him out just so he doesn't steal your thunder.
Okay, yeah.
There you go. Just edit me out and make it sound like he said it. So, but actually, speaking of bringing up Roger Ver, though, I know that Andrew, he always likes to bring this up in every one of our episodes. So if you want to Yeah, I know you're dying to bring something more up on the cryptosphere. You mentioned it a
Oh,
little.
well, I just didn't. Are you particular in cryptosphere? Do you know much about it, or are you just kind of an outside watching from the outside?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, very on the outside. Very.
Mm,
Yeah, I have only so much room in my brain for
right.
things.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, maybe another conversation down the road. So,
Definitely. And if you want to follow each other and you can get with Andrew. He can teach you so
Yeah,
much on
I would
crypto.
love that. I would
So
love that. Yeah,
yeah,
I
he
just
sure.
don't like, yeah, I know if I embark on that and try and like teach myself, like I'm very I have what's it called? Hyper focus.
hmm
Yeah.
When I get excited about something, it becomes everything for a while until I feel like I've absorbed it. So I'm
hmm
nervous about putting my foot in that because I don't have time to do that whole
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, no, that sounds like something y'all need to get with each other and Andrew, he knows so much. He's been into the crypto since the beginning for the most part, so he can definitely
Since that was $17.
yeah. hmm
My husband and I invested $200 in like Bitcoin or something in 2015,
Do that,
and
you know.
we pulled it out like a couple months later, and now I'm kind of mad that we did.
Uh, should have waited till that
I
big
just
bull
felt like it
when it
was. I was like, it's too late. Like we already
mm-hmm.
missed the boat. What's the point? Like I need that.
hmm
We need that money. This is stupid. Like it's too late to invest. And
hmm
whoops.
Well, it's never too late to invest. And I think, and one thing about Bitcoin, and Andrew, you can cut me off and since you know more about this, but one thing about Bitcoin is after the big old 2017 bubble, um, and its first tremendous peak where it hit 20,000 for the first time, um, you started seeing the rush for Bitcoin, and then you also started seeing a more decentralized classification of people within the Bitcoin sphere that realize Bitcoin's being hijacked and kind of being consolidated that earlier on, and so they forked. They did the first fork, and that's how Bitcoin Cash was created. And which tell me if I'm wrong, Andrew, but Bitcoin Cash in itself has been forked how many times since the original?
I believe two.
Yeah, so it's been forked twice more after that, and it's actually kind of maintained its value. Like if you want to coincide with the dollar amount, it maintains that $200 mark like constantly. Like as you've seen its fallout, like it's kind of done its dips. Bitcoin Cash, it's not as volatile
No.
when measured up to the dollar at least. So
Hmm.
it's almost like the utility of it is exactly what the original founder or founders, depending on if it was multiple people that created Bitcoin, there it was almost like what their vision is Bitcoin Cash, which is a utility of medium of exchange. Now we just got to get people to
And
maybe
store value.
yeah, and a store of value.
And
Now we got
fungibility.
mm-hmm. Yep. So
I mean, if I could find like, I'm sure it's a thing to just like have someone that knows what they're doing with crypto and just like have them invest money for you,
Yeah.
then I would do that.
mm-hmm. So well, anything else? This has been
Uh, a wild episode, that's for sure.
We've been all over the place.
we
Yeah.
have
Going down these tangents like UFOs, and this is great.
I loved it. So it's been fun. It's been a great conversation. Wouldn't mind actually bringing you back on again. Maybe we can expand even further. I mean,
Sure.
maybe on one, maybe stay on more than maybe stay on like the one topic that we probably should stay on. But it's been fun. It's always great going down rabbit holes and back out and going to this and that. It's always great to learn different perspectives, of course. So anything else in your corner, Andrew?
No, I'm pretty good. Thanks for
All right. So, and then I'll let you have the floor one final time, Sonja, and you can plug away where people can find you and what your lifestyle is, and what's next for Sonja Agora.
Yeah, so my name is Sonja Agora. Thank you so much for having me on here. I'm mostly on Twitter. I do YouTube under the same name. But I'm just a regenerative farmer. I teach small farming classes. I teach butchery. My mother is a butcher. I'm her apprentice. I've been doing it for a little over 11 years. And I also have just started my small farm consultation business. So I'm going and traveling to people's farms and teaching them how to kind of make things more efficient and make the animals actually do their job instead of you just spending money on animals running around your farm. So anyways, I love talking about agorism. I love talking about libertarianism. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been super fun.
It has. Thank you for coming on. So it's been fabulous. So to transition out of this, this has been another episode of The Legacy Right. I am once again the legacy of Jennifer Lee and Kaiser. I am Zachary Kaiser. This is
Andrew Joseph.
Didn't miss it. And thank you once again for coming on, Sonja. And make sure you follow her if you haven't already. So keep tabs. So other than that, let's get on out of here and jump back on the train of go to our next destination, Andrew.
Peace.
Hopefully not. Yep. Peace.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Pete Okerlund, and I'd like to welcome you to WCW Baseball.
You know, brother, you think you know what it takes to beat Hollywood Hogan? Watch him climb in the ring and try out the largest arms in the world. Oh, sir.
You want to wrestle an inch more Ric Flair, you gotta be able to walk that out and style and profile. Woo!
You really think you're ready for the spin?
You really think you're ready for the Scorpion Deathlock? You think you're ready for a fatal encounter?
This is why they call me the total package. Do you have a pain threshold to withstand the torture rack? Let's find out.
Hallo, hier ist Alex Wright. Wenn ihr High-Flying Wrestling Action wollt, Spinning Sidekick, Top Turnbuckle Dropkick, dann nehmt mich. Der Sieg ist euch sicher. Versprecht euch.
Oh yeah! Watch the flying elbow drop off the top rope. Not only beat people 1, 2, 3, but I hurt him real bad.
It only takes one of 1,000 holes. I think you're man enough for the challenge. You better be ready to wrestle, because you know, when you're getting in the ring with Eddie Guerrero, it's going to be high-flying and exciting.
Hey, anytime you feel foggy, man, I'll slap on the buzz killer and rip your shoulder right out of socket. Wolfpack style!
Hey, funky boy. Like there's a choice here? Good God! Pick the man with the plan. Pick DDP.
Hey, all you suckers out there, you wanna play the game? You wanna play with the big boy? Put your feet on the button, cause when you go down 110th Street, it's gonna be on like neck bone, sucker.
This is Booker T from Harlem Heat, hardcore OG brother from 110th Street. If any of you punks got the guts to step up to the plate, push the button.
Yo, Chico, you selected Scott Hall? Get ready for a wild ride on the outside. Hey there! How'd you like to get power pop? Come on, pick me. I'm begging you, pick me. Please pick me.
You think you got the courage to step in the ring? I think you're gonna wind up in a snap neck from the choke slam.
Technical wrestler, high flyer, brawler. Don't matter what you consider yourself to be. When you're in the ring with the crippler, you're a loser.